All right, mate, let's bring in our player of the week, an absolute try-scoring machine. And you would think just by that, they would be somewhere in the outside backs, but no, they wear the number 2. How about this for a strike rate, Pete? They missed close to 8 games this year through injury, scored 10 tries. They would have played the whole year, they would end up with 20. But let's bring them in now. It's Utah hooker Sama Malolo.
Yeah, no, always, bro. Nah, Utah's been good. I think this team, it kind of reminds me of myself, the way that the team goes. Like, we've got a bit of a chip on our shoulder. A lot of the boys, they always got something to prove every week because boys are working jobs. We've got players like Mikey Teo and up-and-comers like Mickey Cruze, but they haven't gone to the extent of signing any internationals from other countries or anything like that, or big names other than Clifford. The team's just since day one just been a real head down, work hard mentality, and that's something that I bought in from day one too. So, mate, funny story. I didn't actually play footy till I moved to Australia. So my dad got a job. That offered a better life for our family in Sydney. So we moved from Auckland to Sydney. And growing up in New Zealand, I never really played rugby. Played basketball growing up. Yeah. And when I went to Sydney Boys High, I had like my interview for the school and stuff. And as soon as the school principal found out that I was from Auckland Grammar, he's like, "Oh, you're a rugby boy." I said, "Oh, yeah."
That's good.
And, I don't know, just maybe around like my second to last year in high school was when I actually tried to try out for rugby teams and stuff like that. And, was really blessed afterwards to get a couple opportunities at the back of that. So never really played rugby until the later years in life, until I moved to Australia, when everyone thinks that just because you're Kiwi you're a good footy player, So,
yeah.
You know what? So we like our practice stadium, for example, and you know how everything's organised with your manager, sorts out a stadium for you and all that kind of stuff to train at. We actually had really good facilities in Georgia. So you go to like a really rural place, and the facilities that we were training at, it was top of the line, world class, brand new build. We got ice bars, spas, hot tubs, and all that kind of stuff for after training. And the people were really nice too. The facilities managers and the people, the caretakers would come out, hang out with the boys. And so it was really nice, and it was kind of hidden too. So we'd go for maybe like a 40-minute drive, just seeing some pretty weird things, and then come around the corner, and the facilities are actually really nice. The stadiums are packed too.
Yeah.
So there are kind of like hidden gems around there in Georgia, because like you wouldn't think it's it doesn't really look like a rugby country or anything like that. Pull up to the stadium and it's just packed full of people.
Yeah,
mate, absolutely. I think that especially the amount of work that we do in the forwards, like you said, finals rugby is a different style of footy. I think that what we showcased last weekend in regards to our set piece in the forwards is really going to pay us dividends moving into the next game. If we keep the game tight, and if they want to play a boring style of footy, Touche will kick for corners, more penalties, scrum penalties, all that kind of stuff. So if we give that good attacking platform for our backs, then there's those multi levels of attack that we can get there. So like you said, finals footy is a different brand of footy, and I think that if we play to our strengths and work on our strengths even more this week, then it'll pay dividends for us this weekend. So
gone through the end of the season and we've looked at lineouts, is how many teams are not doing full lineouts, right? And so they're running a 6-man lineout with their forward, often the flanker, as the scrum half, which allows him to be most often someone that drives in the lineout, but also can be a distributor. That's why you put the 7 there. And the big reason why you do that is that it reduces the line-out defensive options. And so there was some interesting stuff, Dan. I think it was the LA Utah game, where Utah were just taking away the first 2 spots, right? So there's basically 3 spots that you can throw in a line out, right? You can throw to the front, you can throw to the middle, you can throw to the back, right? So line out strategies are either to jump where there isn't a defender, okay? And so throwing to the back's the hardest throw. It's the best attacking platform. So you've got a really good throw and a really good jumper back there. And you see that with Van Vuren. He's a great jumper at the tail of the line out, right? It's what allows Utah to have that hit. But LA didn't have that opportunity. They didn't have Dave Dennis, right? So they struggled a little bit in terms of trying to understand how to come over the defense. So if you run a full line out, it allows 2 pods to take away the first 2 space, and you still have a guy for the overthrow. But if you run a 6-man line out, then you have those 2 pods, but you don't have an overthrow, and then it becomes more difficult. And then if you have a 5-man line out, generally the defenders have to move, right? So in a full line out, you go to the space, right? You can also go quick, right? And so you can get into space quicker, but generally with a full line out, you're going to throw to space where they're not jumping. And in the shorter line out, you want to be looking to move along the ground. And I think one of the interesting things in both of the playoff games coming up is how important the line out's going to be, right? So New York struggles a little bit in the line out. ATL are very good. LA are very good with Dave Dennis, and actually Utah's very good. And the line out edge, I think, can probably determine what's going on. I think the New York lineouts are much better with Nick Savetta, right? I think their stats are much better when he's playing, and so he didn't play for the whole season. So I think the line out is going to be really, really critical. So look for the attackers to attack space, right? So to jump where there's not another jumper, or to just be quicker, right? So in other words, to get into the air. So you either win, well, what they say in lineouts is you either win the line out on the ground by attacking space, maybe it's moving, but you're trying to create space and you're in attacking space, or you win it in the air by getting up first, right? And so watching both of these lineouts to see what they're going to do, because there's some really great lineout operators like Nick Savetta, sort of Dave Dennis. Those 2 are like really, really top guys. It'll be interesting to see how teams counteract the best jumpers, and how the throwers can manage the pressure in a playoff game.
All right,
doing something else.
New York, Atlanta. In Atlanta, who do you like and why?
So I think this is, I think I like Atlanta. I think New York are a really dangerous team for ATL though. I think that New York do a great job. Against the Atlanta defense, there aren't many cover lines. You have to convert your breaks. And New York, when they beat them earlier this season, that's exactly what they did. They had like 5 line breaks and they all ended up being tries. New York also has a very good defense of its own. And ATL, while they've done pretty well, have not been, haven't throughout the season scored a lot of points. So I think the question is going to be, can ATL score the points? I think the big question is who plays 10 for ATL. I think the New York team, we probably know what the New York team is going to be. I think the ATL team has a little bit more depth, but at 10, do you play Coliseum or do you play Coleman? Right, Coleman got his first start, didn't play very well. I think that it's going to be a really interesting, like Ezcura didn't play, so what does that mean? Nell played well, but I think that we're probably going to find, I think Coleman at 10, Ezcura at 12, Coliseum at 13, O'Keefe at 13 and Coliseum at 15 is probably what they're going to end up. But I think that's a big question. And for New York, the big question is, they have significantly worse scrum, significantly worse line out. Are they able to match them? They would need to match them and have some sort of parity in the set piece to be able to win that game. If ATL have the edge in the line out and the scrum, I think ATL wins it. I think New York needs to, if New York has parity, I think that New York probably becomes the favorites.
Hang on, parity or parity?
Yeah.
Just kidding. Little inside joke there from the broadcast on the weekend. Only a few people. Aaron, Stats Boy got it, but only a few other people did. I thought it was pretty funny. Here's one now you've made your pick, but it'll actually just reinforce your pick. Cara Pryor picks up a red card. Looks like he'll be suspended for the rest of the finals for that.
Big loss for New York, right? Big loss.
Right.
I mean, they've got depth, but it's a big loss.
And I am hearing that there is a chance that Dan Hollinshead will be required to fly back to New Zealand before the game. So Harry Bennett would probably be starting at 10, which is Now, Harry did a great job when Dan was out. Originally, they've played a lot of rugby without Dan Hollinshead, but the last couple of weeks, he's shown how important he is with his kicking game and off the tee. He is considerably more accurate than Harry Bennett and Chris Martina in big moments. So we'll have to see when the rosters come out how that'll affect it. But I'm leaning the same way you are. Even though New York has beaten Atlanta twice, I think they've taken enough out of those games to make the corrections at home and get the win.
Yeah, and I think that it's also one of those things where it's just like in close contest, it's hard to beat a team 3 times, right? And I think that there's some psychology there, right? Like you've won 3 times, and I think it's hard to beat a team 3 times. So I think ATL will come in with a bit more of a chip on their shoulder. It's a playoff game, but any little edge you can get is good. And so I'm sure Scott Lawrence has been like, well, we've never beaten these guys. You guys have never there's some buttons you can push when you're 0-2 against your playoff foe. And
funny enough, both teams coming into this game on a loss, which is
that's also
kind of weird into the playoffs. I don't know if we've seen that very often. All right, other game, Utah and LA. Now, you and I are calling this game. So this, do you go against tradition here and make a prediction, or are we going to
So I don't think we make a prediction, but I think we can talk about the game, right? So I think that, like, what I would say is that, LA come into this as strong favorites. And I think they come in as strong favorites partly because they're, A/B side was competitive with Utah's A side. Mm-hmm. And what we learned there was that, for Utah, so there's a couple of things that Utah has to do to be able to win. So we've talked about it. They've got to get their line out. They've got to take away Dave Dennis. They've got to, really disrupt the LA lineup. It is such an important attacking platform. In fact, both Utah and LA score more points off lineouts than any other team. It's almost 60% of their points come off lineouts. So the first thing that Utah has to do is they have to have an edge. They have an edge to. I have to have that edge in the lineout. The second thing is they've got to hold them in the first 20 minutes. Right? I mean, Utah just want to be probably within 10 points with 20 minutes to go, right? Because their bench is really strong, right? So Utah, I think, has the stronger 23. I think LA has the stronger 15. And so LA, they want to blitz them, be up 20 points after 20 minutes, and then manage the game the rest of the way. And so, those are the things. I think if I'm Utah, I'm putting Matt Gitto on the ground every chance I can. I'm going to run at him. I'm going to make him tackle. He's a good tackler, but you want to really beat him up. I think that if I'm at LA, I think, the loss of Angus Cottrell for this game is going to be big, right? For the physicality that bow was. Poitevin played. He looked a little rusty, but he kind of came into the game. So having Poitevin back is important. Is Ash back at 8?
No, he's got a broken arm, mate. He's got a huge pink cast, full arm cast.
So I'm so they don't have, they're missing probably 2 of their starting back row. There were some opportunities for Utah there. So I think that LA are strong favorites, but I think it becomes a much more even game if it's close after 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's. What are you doing with that side? I'm trying to think. Do you keep Pungo Heine at 8? He's a great ball runner, but like you said, the line out, Adam Ash was a good line out jumper as an 8-man, where Pungo is a bit more robust. Great carrier at the ball, great defender. But
Cottrell is a great carrier, right? So they're missing him. So I think you probably leave Pungo there because he can provide that ball carrying that Cottrell had. And without that, they might be a little bit light in terms of having someone that can punch holes. We talk a lot about the backs, but those backs get all the time in the world because those forwards are strong ball carriers and can get over the line.
Yeah. And obviously JP Smith comes back, which will show up the scrum.
Yeah.
It'll probably be him. Charlie Abel will be your 2 front rows, I would imagine. Vailanu will be your hooker. I'm trying to think who you have at lock now. You have Dave Dennis, obviously.
And
O'Brien? Or Den Hoot, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, or do you put Den Hoot at 6, Poitevin at 7, and put O'Brien at 5 or 4?
Yeah, I mean, I think these are the things that you need to think about. I think Utah are probably coming in very settled.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Pete, because
right?
Picking that Utah side to me is a lot easier it kind of, we kind of know what it is, and they've
I
played
mean,
their way
the
in.
other thing I would say is that does Darren Coleman reward the players that played well, right? So there's Adam Channel had a great game.
Yeah, but who are you?
Right?
DTH or Ryberg? Who are you leaving out of the side?
Right, like that's DTH is definitely playing. I think Ryberg might be a little bit, but he's had a great season. Maybe Channel's on the bench.
Channel or Ryan James?
That's the question, right?
Yeah. Hey, who'd want to be a coach, right? Who'd want to be a coach?
Yeah, that's why I'm here, not me.
So, no, I think this. What makes it so interesting is we just saw it, and then I'm looking at it going, well, we just saw it, and I'm like, yeah, but it really means nothing because it was so different. And it adds to the fabric of this game. It makes it